So just to update, obviously yesterday, today we made some moves. The first one is trading Roquan Smith and acquiring a 2023 second-round pick, fifth-round pick, and A.J. Klein. First, want to just say thank you to Roquan for everything he did here. I know he impacted the franchise, the field, as well as the locker room, which again, repeating a lot of the things that I said the other day, these moves are difficult because it's just not a move on paper. It affects people, especially the locker room. And that's why it was important for Coach and I to spend time with both Roquan as well as many of the leaders on the team to give them our perspective and a little bit of the why behind it so that they have some understanding. And that was important to both of us. There's part of me that's bummed because this was a guy that I thought was going to be here for a long time. I felt like we put a lot of effort forward to get that done. We came up short and we couldn't find common ground, and that's just a part of this business, which I think we all understand. I want to definitely, wish him luck moving forward. I know he's going to have a good career. It'll be good for Baltimore as well. The next move, which was today, was agreeing to terms with the Steelers to acquire Chase Claypool for a 2023 second-round pick. I am excited about this player. I've really liked the way that our offense is starting to come together and move. I thought it was important to add another impact player to our offense to go along with the guys that we currently have in the receiver room right now. I like the way Justin is trending, and I think adding another big body who's physical, explosive, great leaping ability, can stretch the field, but also is violent with the ball in his hand as well as a blocker. I think that enhances everyone around him. The next part I want to also comment is just A.J. Klein. Having A.J. Klein brings a veteran presence to the linebacker room that can help us move forward, and he'll be important to us. And then, I don't mention this a lot, but the relationship, the transparency, the communication with our coaches, you don't get that in every single building, in every regime, and it's special that there's trust, there's communication between all of us. We're all on the same page. This isn't easy. These guys are up there grinding on getting ready for Miami, and to have this kind of shaken up on them, it's not an easy thing at all. But they understand, they trust. We're all working together on this, and they're going to make this the best, that they can make it. But I really appreciate them and that openness. And the other thing is just the staff, my staff, the guys that I work with, Ian, Jeff King, Trey Koziel, Chris White, as well as our entire pro staff. There's a lot of work that goes into this, Matt Feinstein. Again, all we're trying to do is make this roster the best roster that we possibly can today and moving forward. So I'll open up the questions.
You couldn't find common ground with Roquan. Did you re-engage in contract or extension negotiations during the season? And if so, what came of those?
We gave our finals before the season, and we established that. So that's where we just couldn't find common ground.
Right. How do you detail, I guess for us, but also for your leaders when you meet with them, why a guy that you believe so strongly in is no longer part of your championship vision in Roquan?
Because of what we just mentioned in terms of not being able to find common ground to continue to move forward. There is the reality of it is you have to ask yourself a question, are we ever going to find that middle ground? And from our previous conversations, you gather that information, and it felt like it was highly unlikely. So then are you able to then take the opportunity to enhance your roster now, or are you okay with the chance that he walks away and we can't use some of that to enhance our roster? And that's what it came down to, and I felt like we had to move forward at that time.
So right now, at what point in the process between the negotiations in the spring and the trade yesterday did it become apparent to you that, it wasn't going to come to fruition and it was going to be in the best interest of the Bears to leverage him for future assets?
When it was the exact moment?
Was like right after the negotiations broke down, did decision come later, closer to yesterday? At what point did it become pretty clear to you that that wasn't going to come together?
That's an ongoing, just a thought process that you're taking the information that you learned from the preseason and as we got started and through the season to be like, all right, what am I comfortable doing? And then you also want to see there's a new staff. So you want to see how everything's going to gel together. So at that moment, we got to today or this past couple of days, and it was like, all right, I think the best option for this team is to move forward.
You mentioned the fit, the new staff and all of that. How much did the evaluation of Roquan in this defense play into the decision to shrink?
Yeah, it's a combination of just the fit, but also the long-term part of it as well, in terms of the value and everything like that. So, like I've said before, it's a big puzzle piece, and you're putting all these things together to make a final decision that you hope is just as sound as possible.
Ryan, you mentioned what you've seen of Justin Fields and the way that he's trending. What about this deal? What about his progress allowed you to go forward and make this deal for Claypool?
Yeah, it's just, as a quarterback, and you all know where I come from, you can never have enough weapons and guys that help your quarterback gain confidence. And I know a lot of the guys are starting to make plays for us, and just adding another receiver is going to allow him to continue to grow and gain that confidence.
Ryan, with
Does
the
this deal
2023 wide receiver, the free agent class that's coming up, a lot of those guys have already signed their deals. Did that play into just how bleak that group is, play into wanting to get Justin more help now instead of just having to rely maybe on the draft for that?
Yeah, and that's part of my job, and that's part of my crew upstairs is you have to do a little bit of forecasting and looking down the road. And I just didn't feel completely comfortable with that. Not to say there's not good players there. I just didn't feel comfortable with not maybe being a little bit more aggressive at this point.
Ryan, we always talk about players betting on themselves, which Roquan Smith was doing. Are you betting on yourself at this point, having, torn down this team and rebuilding it? Is that the risk you're taking here?
Absolutely. At the end of the day, I'm a decision maker and a leader, and you got to step up and you got to make those decisions. And at the end of the day, if it's not, then that is on me.
Does the move for Claypool happen without the deal with Roquan first, like that extra second-round pick?
That's hard to say. There really were two different things. Obviously, it helps to continue to build the way that I want to build, which is through the draft, the way we want to build. So that did help.
Was it your second-round pick that you sent?
Yeah, it was our second-round pick.
And then also with Chase, what are your realistic vision for the rest of this season? And then obviously there's a whole different conversation for beyond this season.
Yeah, like I said, this is not easy for our coaching staff at this point in the week and of the year to do this. So they'll start piecing it together. I'll lean heavily on them to get that ball rolling. It's going to take a little bit of time. Obviously, if you think back, you have all of camp to learn something, and then you get going. So it's going to be a process.
What type of feedback did you get from your team leaders, and who were those players in those meetings?
Yeah, I'm not going to get into specifics. Just I really think those conversations are private. But it's important to me, and I think you all know me by now, the transparency and just being able to communicate with those guys to understand that it's not just, again, it's not fantasy football. We're just plugging out names and moving them around. It's deeper than that.
Ryan, Roquan thought that he was pretty similar to Shaquille Leonard and Fred Warner, and I'm pretty sure he based his demands on that. Was he just not in their class, in your opinion? Was that where the difference of opinion was?
Yeah, we had a difference in value. I'm not going to go into exactly where he slots and all of that. But at the same time, you want players to think highly of themselves, and you want them to understand, that they are the best at their position. So I don't fault him for that. But we had that conversation, and obviously it just didn't work out.
A year ago, Roquan would have frankly seemed like a no-brainer signing him to a long-term contract. Obviously, a different regime. Is there just that much of a difference of opinion, or is it in this defense he's not as valuable, or what's the source, I guess, of your valuation of him?
Yeah, I think that's one of those tough things. It's not. I don't think I've ever sat up here and said he's not a really good football player. But to have a long-term agreement, there has to be a common ground on what that looks like to make him a long-term player.
Was it difficult for you that he did not have an agent?
It does make the process harder, for sure.
Is there an expectation to look to keep Chase with this team for a long term? Obviously, he's got 1.5 years left in his contract, but is that kind of an expectation that he's going to be part of this thing for a while?
Yeah, the contract definitely helps, but you know, we're gonna take, just like everybody else, we're kind of gonna take the season and see how everything works out, and we'll go from there.
I asked Coach Eberflus a couple weeks ago about the kind of natural conflict of interest between his duties to try and win this week's game and your duties to try and look out for the best long-term interests of the team. Not to say that you don't want to win this week's game, I know you do, but obviously getting rid of Roquan doesn't make his job easier this week. It probably makes it a little bit more difficult. How do you go about balancing that? What are those conversations like? And does it change how you go about evaluating the coaching staff's performance this season?
Yeah, all of that's taken into consideration. That's why, you know, I ended that with just how thankful I am for our staff to have the open mind to understand about today and tomorrow. It's not easy, but I will guarantee you this: that staff, our players, our locker room, they are competitive and they want to win week in and week out. Do these shakeups, you know, shake that up and make it stressful at times? Absolutely. And I get that, and they get that. But what I love about this staff is that they're competitive, this locker room's competitive, and they don't see this as, hey, these moves are happening, so let's just throw in the white towel and just forget about everything else. They want to grind it out. They want to win. I don't think anyone that's watched our games, any single one of them, even the ones we don't win or we're struggling, that don't see the effort, the competition, the fire, everything that we stand for is out on the field, and we're going to continue to do that.
Is it okay then in your mind defensively, if that group takes a step back, not having two of its top players, is that okay for like the short-term sacrifice for you?
I don't think that's ever okay to take a step back. You're going to have to rely on players to step up and other leaders on the team to make more plays.
Ryan, Chase's first two seasons were pretty consistent, or pretty similar statistically from each other. This year he seems to have fallen off. In your evaluation of him, why are his numbers down? Why are some of those frustrations that he made public there?
Yeah, actually, receiving yards, I think he's on pace to be similar.
Game's down.
Okay, per game. Yeah, there's a lot of changes going on there. So you do have to just kind of look at the scenario and put all that together. But I think he's going to be fine.